Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We're working out of the Johnson edition and we are at poem 71, A Throw Upon the Features. This is one more of those coming to terms with death poems that Emily will be playing with so many times. We'll look even at a couple of poems later that we'll be studying that will build in some ways from this same sentiment. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is our playlist. I'm hopeful that you were exposed to our introductory set of comments, and I'm hopeful as well that you were able to work through the previous 70 poems we just finished with. Arcturus is his other name. Now, really in some ways you can read a poem like this as the theodicy question. Go back to our introductory set of comments, the last of our big five. The question of pain and suffering, and ultimately, of course, the question of death itself. And in that regards, we've got a fascinating little poem. Notice how the poem is divided into two parts with the two stanzas. A throw upon the features, a hurry in the breath, an ecstasy of parting, denominated death. An anguish at the mention which, when to patience grown, I've known permission given to rejoin its own. The sounds, of course, here are beautiful. And notice, it's almost like a oh sound, like a groan sound, like a right? And this is the genius of Emily. She can take and she can turn it into a poem where not only is the sound there, but the ideas are there as well. When we begin with the word throw, we're going to see this when we hit poem 135. And it will read like this. Water is taught by thirst, land by the oceans past, transport by throw, peace by its battles told, love by memorial mold, birds by the snow. This use of the word throw is, of course, going to immediately introduce us to the question of theodicy. Why must there be throw? Why must there be pain? And then, of course, we're talking now about dying. First of all, there's the throw, or the struggle upon the features of the face. Then there's the hurry in the breath, right? Because the breathing becomes abnormal. And then an ecstasy of parting. Now, ecstasy we'll study again when we hit poem 122. A something in a summer's noon, a depth, an azure, a perfume, transcending ecstasy and still within a summer's night. A something so transporting bright, I clap my hands to see. So we've got the ecstasy of parting. Now, of course, parting here will take us later, when we're almost near the end in poem 1732, my life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive as these that twice befell. And then, of course, the most famous line of this, many say of one of her most famous lines of all time. Parting is all we know of heaven and all we need of hell. Death, parting, is here. Notice all of this. That is to say, the face, the breath, the ecstasy of parting, all of that denominated quote-unquote death. In other words, this is what death is. Then there's a break, and we come from throw to anguish. An anguish at the mention, which, when to patience grown. Now, in other words, the longer I grow accustomed to the passing of an individual through patience, I can begin to accept, she says, I've known permission given to rejoin its own. In other words, death in the end will do what? Well, it will bring those who have passed with, for Emily's view of heaven, with those who also have passed before. And therefore, it takes time at 2a. I think the message here is it takes time and patience to learn to deal with death. It isn't an easy thing at all to deal with. At 2b, I note here the choral-like effect, where notice first we'll begin with what death does. Then we will respond, almost like a chorus where we have the statement and then the response to how to deal with the passing of the one that one cares for. We don't know who specifically she was referencing here in her poem about coming to terms with death. At 3a, and how can we relate this to other texts, John Donne's famous sonnet, Death Be Not Proud, comes to mind. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. We'll let you run that one to ground. And of course, valediction forbidding mourning as well, as virtuous men pass mildly away and whisper to their souls to go, while some of their sad friends do say, the breath goes now, and some say no. That is to say that longing to hold on to the ones we love through the process of dying. Finally, at 3b, how do you deal with parting, whether it be death or it be separation from the ones that you care about? And is it true that patience has taught you good lessons to see other sides of your sorrow? Thank you.